If you've ever tried to force your brain to stop overthinking, you already know that it simply does not work. Telling yourself not to think about a pink elephant guarantees you will picture a pink elephant. Our brains do not understand subtractive commands. To your nervous system, overthinking feels like a survival tactic. When you fixate on a problem, your brain interprets that mental loop as a defense mechanism against a low-level threat, keeping you alert so you stay alive. This is why we can't just suppress our thoughts. Instead, we have to change our behavioral response to them. To do that, we are going to build a 4-part overthinking action plan. Before we define the steps, you need 2 physical tools: your smartphone with an alarm function and a physical notebook. Overthinking is not an inherent personality flaw. By treating it as an executable protocol, you shift from being a victim of your nervous system to its operator. Step 1 is establishing your behavioral trigger. Take your phone and set a randomized alarm, a mindfulness bell, to chime throughout your day. When this bell rings, it serves as an external pattern interrupt. It forces you to pause and check your mental state, catching those silent thought loops you've slipped into without realizing it. The first state you might catch yourself in is worry. Worry is a chronic, looping fixation on what could go wrong in the future. The protocol here is scheduled worry. When the bell rings and you notice you are worrying, tell your brain you will deal with it later. You are going to defer all daytime anxiety to a strict 20-minute daily window, like 5 p.m. Instead of letting low-grade stress remain scattered throughout the day, those thoughts are captured and forced into a single 20-minute window. At 5 p.m., you sit down and write those deferred worries onto physical paper. You give the stress an outlet. Chronic stress levels stay high when worry is scattered throughout the day. By compressing it into an acute burst, you allow your system to return to a baseline state, which reduces the long-term physiological load on your cardiovascular and nervous systems. The second quadrant deals with intrusive thoughts. These are the sudden, unwanted, often frightening what-if scenarios that pop into your head. The common mistake here is trying to argue with the thought or performing a safety behavior to avoid it. If you have a sudden thought about swerving into traffic and you grip the wheel in a panic to prevent it, you accidentally signal to your brain that the threat is real. To stop this cycle, we use a psychological tool called cognitive diffusion. Mentally label your brain as a meaningless word machine. When a disturbing thought arrives, thank your brain, but do not engage. Once you acknowledge the thought, you brush it aside. You force your visual and physical attention right back to whatever you were doing in the present environment. When you refuse to debate these thoughts and nothing bad happens, your brain's threat detection center learns they carry no actual danger. Over time, this starves the intrusive thoughts of their intensity. Our third quadrant is overplanning, or analysis paralysis. This happens when your brain attempts to eliminate all uncertainty by obsessively controlling every possible outcome. Trying to make everything perfect creates a hidden psychological danger. It trains your brain to believe that you are entirely too fragile to survive a mistake. The counter protocol for overplanning is the intentional flaw. To practice this, you must execute one action today with deliberate imperfection. Send a minor email without editing it, or go on a short trip without mapping out the itinerary. When things don't go perfectly and you physically survive the discomfort, your brain learns a new baseline. You stop relying on external control and start relying on your own internal resilience. The final quadrant is rumination. This is the act of chewing on past regrets and unchangeable mistakes. Rumination feels like taking action, but it actually creates rigid, inescapable neural pathways, trapping your thinking patterns in a state of hopelessness. To get out of this rut, you apply the present value action protocol. First, you interrogate your regret to identify the core positive value hidden beneath it. If you are ruminating about snapping at a child, the value underneath that guilt is a desire to be a compassionate parent. Next, you immediately execute a 2-minute physical action that embodies that exact value in the present moment. You go offer a sincere apology or express physical affection. Shifting your attention from unchangeable past events to immediate, value-driven physical actions breaks the cycle of depressive looping. You reclaim your agency right here in the present. We now have a completed toolkit. For worry, we schedule it. For intrusive thoughts, we diffuse them. For overplanning, we introduce a flaw. and for rumination, we take action. This works because of a biological mechanism called neuroplasticity. This protocol relies on consistent repetition to create physical changes in the brain. As you replace the habit of overthinking with these structured responses, the nervous system gradually reinforces the neural pathways required to sustain them. When you first attempt this protocol, it will feel highly uncomfortable. Your brain will resist. Messing up and falling back into old habits isn't a failure. It is a required part of the rewiring process. Keep your mindfulness bell active. The very next time you hear that chime, open your notebook and consult the matrix. It is biologically impossible to stop your brain from generating thoughts, but by mastering this protocol, you ensure that you dictate the actions that follow, securing your own peace of mind.